Leelas and Lessons from Caitanya Bhagavat, Anti-Leela, Chapter 9. This is Part 2. And we were hearing about Advaitacharya's. We're in the middle of one story that... What was the title of the story? I don't remember. Rupa and Sanatana. Oh yes. Lord Caitanya names Rupa and Sanatana. So they had come to Puri to meet him, and they were begging for devotion. And Lord Caitanya said, you can only get devotion from Advaitacharya. And I thought that was rather strange, but then they went to Advaitacharya. So Lord Caitanya speaks, because then they surrendered there, and everyone was chanted loudly the holy name of Hari. Then Lord Caitanya spoke to Dabirakas, Dabirakas Sere Prabhu, Balite Lagila, Ekane Tamara Krishna, Prema Bhakti Haila. Gauranga said, now you and your brother have received Krishna Prema Bhakti, ecstatic love for Krishna, just by surrendering to Advaitacharya. We were making the point yesterday that there's so many movements and so many teachings out there that some people emphasize two members of the Panchatattva, not all of them. And we were mentioning the verse Panchatattva Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Sarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktavyam Namami Bhakta Shaktigam. That most devotees, Gaudiya Vaishnavas, they take the Panchatattva as a tattva, as a unit. 5 aspects of the absolute truth which are necessary to be worshipped. The Shakti Tattva, 3 Vishnu Tattva, and 2 Shakti Tattva. Jiva Tattva, who is Srivas Thakur, and Shakti Tattva Radharani, or that Ladani Shakti of Gadadhar Pandit. So now we see here, everyone thinks, oh, we just worship Nityananda Gauranga. Gauranga is Krishna Prema Pradayate. Who needs Advaita? Advaita is a whole parampara. Nityananda is a parampara. Gadadhar is a parampara. Shiva says some parampara also. And here it's quite clear, Lord Chaitanya says, go there. Go to Advaitacharya. And from him, from Advaitacharya, you'll get ecstatic love of God. So someone's saying, Gauranga, Gauranga, Nityananda, and praying Gauranga, and he's not paying any attention or glorifying Advaitacharya, then how does he... Because even Rupa and Sanatana, by their own example, they came to Lord Gauranga and said, Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate. You give Krishna Prema. And he said, no, he gives. So that right from the page of Caitanya Bhagavat, we're finding that, and he says, yes, now you have it. And then he goes on to say, Advaitera Prasadi Jay Haya Krishna Bhakti Janiha Advaite Krishna Purna Shakti. Mahaprabhu said, to emphasize the point about the unique position and most essential position of Advaitacharya. Krishna Bhakti is possible only by Advaita Kripa, the mercy, Advaita Prasad, the actual Prasad of Advaitacharya. Know for certain that he possesses all the potencies of Krishna, because he's Vishnu Tattva, and Shaktimana Veda. If you have Shaktiman, then you have Shakti. If you're alive, you have power. If you're a person, you have power. Person and power. So the Supreme Person is God, and the power is a Shakti. Vishnu Tattva and Vishnu Shakti. Prasi Shakti Revadaya Shriyate. So he's saying he's Advaita, but he's not such a small personality. He's Vishnu Tattva, and he has so many Shaktis. So the Shakti he has all the potencies of Krishna. He's not limiting him by saying he's only Mahavishnu. Katadina Jagannatha Shri Mukha Dekhiya Tabedui Bhai Maturaya Takagya. Mahaprabhu said, Dabirakash and Sakara Malik, you should remain here in Jagannath Puri for some time and see the lotus face of Lord Jagannath, then go reside in Mathura. He says, Jagannath Shri Mukha Dekhiya, then Mathuraya Takagya. Go to Mathura. We read the book to the conclusion. We're on the conclusion is in the 10th chapter. It's very interesting. Several pastimes later, in this Puri Leela with Gauranga and his associates, and about 80 pages or so, 90 pages later, this point will come up again about the face of Lord Jagannath. Jagannath Sri Mukha Dekhiya. So just keep it in mind. because in a few weeks we'll get to that pastime, and then you'll remember, oh, I remember. Why? Because he's saying lotus face, and generally it's charan, china, dhyan. We meditate on the symbols and the feet of Krishna and Radha, Nitya and Gaur, especially. Or the Rup dhyan, the whole form, Rupa Madhurya of Krishna, the sweet form of Krishna, the sweet form of Radha. You're saying, Jagannath Shrimukha Dekhiya. So keep that in mind. Mahaprabhu was telling him, he didn't say, go meditate on Gauranga's form, go meditate on Jagannath's form, or meditate on his leelas or his name, but he said, go see his face. Toma Sabahayite Jata Rajasa Tamasa Paschima Sabharigya Deya Bhakti Rasa. Mahaprabhu said, this is Rupa and Sanatana, you both should distribute the mellows of devotional service and bhakti ras to the people of the West. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gora Vani Pracharne Nirvashesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane Paschatya Desh, the Western worlds. So for East Bengal and West Bengal, West India is the Western countries. It's Videshi Loka. This is Paschim Desh. Vrindavan is Paschim Desh because they came to Vrindavan. I distributed the mellows of devotional service, and this is, I won't say it's interesting. It's an important point to change my cliche phrase. This is a very important point. Paschima, because we find in this Caitanya Bhagavata, Anti-Lila chapter 9, verse 271, we find Srila Prabhupada's glories mentioned. Well, that's why I mentioned the second half of his pranam prayer. That Mahaprabhu is telling that Rupa and Sanatana, you will preach in the West. He's giving them Guru Agya. What you do here and what you do there. This is your orders for here. You're in this Jagannath Dham. You go to the Lord of this Dham, and you take darshan of Shri Jagannath Mukha Dekhiya, the beautiful, sweet, beautiful face of Jagannath. It's Shri Jagannath Mukha. Jagannath's Mukha is so beautiful, and it's decorated with Raktadhara. The beautiful, Rakta means red, and Adhara means lips. Beautiful reddish lips, which are full of the tamble of Radharani, Srimati. So every night he wants to hear the Gita Govinda, and he does. Jagannath Swami Swami means Lord, Master, Beloved. Now Jagannath Swami hears the Gita Govinda sung so beautifully and poetically. And he enjoys and he relishes those pastimes. So his lips are red because lips become red when you chew pan, tamble. And this is what they're supposed to see, the Sri Jagannath Mukha Dekhiya. See Jagannath, and when you see the face, the distinctive part of the face is the lips, and the lips are full of red, and the red is from Radharani's tamble, and that's why he's smiling. Because when such an intimate exchange with the beloved makes the heart expand with waves and waves of joy, and stimulates the mind to no end. It's an intoxication because love is the source of the intoxicant. So the love of Radharani is mixed in her adhar, Radha adhar amritam. In the saliva of Radharani, her love is there, her prema is there, and that mixes in the tambu, and then she kisses Jagannath, she kisses her Swami, and her Swami's lips become red and they smile. And this is what Mahaprabhu said, go see this, Rupa and Sanatana, O Lalita and Labanga Manjari. O Rupa and Labanga Manjari. Go see the Swami, the Jagannath Swami, the Lord of the universe of Radha's heart. Jagannath. Jagat means universe, Jagat. The Lord of the universe of Radha's heart. Swami Krishna. Krishna's Swami. And that's what you should do here in Puri. Now when you go, you should go from here also. You should go to Vrindavan, to Mathura, and there distribute bhakti ras. And he says, distribute the mellows of devotional service. Oh, before that he said, see the beautiful face of Jagannath and go to Mathura. That's like one set of instructions. And then he says, and also, he doesn't say in Mathura, he says you go to Mathura, but then Bhakti Rasa Shastra Likana, because also later in Caitanya Charitamrita, he says Bhakti Rasa Shastra, Bhakti Shastra Likana. You should compile Shastras and Bhakti, but devotional, pure devotional, Braj Bhakti, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Ujjvala Nilamani, Stavamala, etc. Upadeshamritam. So that's in Mathura. Now he's saying you should distribute devotional service, the mellows, bhakti ras to Paschim, the people of the West, Paschima Sabhari, who are under the influence of the modes of passion, ignorance. This is Prabhupada. When Prabhupada was doing bhajan in Radha Damodar and Sevakunj in 1959, 1960, and that time he was publishing one magazine in English and one in Hindi, spiritual magazine called Bhagavata Darshan in Hindi and Back to Godhead in English. And he began to compile verse by verse, word by word, verse by verse translation of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which is published in a book called The Pioneer Years, I believe. I have the copy by the archives, Bhaktivedanta archives. And those old issues are replicated there, reproduced there for perusal. And you can see the articles where Prabhupada is translating verse by verse in a serial way and different issues of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. But years later, 1959, then 69, 1969 I believe he published the book. Remember, we figured that out. He published the book in 1969, so about 10 years later he published it in English, not verse by verse, for his own reasons, maybe to expedite the distribution of this full book, which would take rather long to do verse by verse, and he had become fully absorbed in the Bhagavatam Seva by that time. And all his attention was going there, and there's many other services. So, at that time, when he's doing bhajan and contemplating Sad Goswamis and looking at the samadhi of Rupa Goswami out his window of his bhajan kutir, looking towards the Yamuna, beyond the samadhi Rupa Goswami is the Yamuna, and looking towards the Yamuna and beyond the samadhi of Rupa Goswami is Sringarvat, such a beautiful pastime of Sringarvat. So when you see the samadhi Rupa Goswami, you see Sringarvat and you see the Yamuna. It's all in one. If you just see walls, then you're not seeing. If you see boundary walls and brick buildings, but the actual what is there, if you have laser eyes, you'll pass through all. If you have microwave, like cell phone eyes, the cell phone comes through the walls, but do your eyes go through the walls? Your eyes can go through the walls of the material energy if they're microwave eyes, brainwave eyes, and then you can broadcast the spiritual world in your heart and mind. That's the ultimate goal of our bhajan, to make the aprakat lila manifest make the prakat lila manifest in aprakat dham. Because now it's aprakat we cannot see, although we're told that Radha Krishna Vrindavanam paramekam nagachati. Neither Radha nor Krishna take one step out of Vrindavan. They're always here. But where are we? They're here in Vrindavan. Nitya Vrindavan, Rasa Vrindavan, Leela Vrindavan, Madhurya Leela Vrindavan. But are we in Rasa Vrindavan? Are we in Madhurya Leela Vrindavan? We're in some Bhog Leela. We're in some Asat, Mayak representation of Vrindavan. So when we're ready, they'll lift the curtain and we'll see the show. You're sitting in the audience waiting for the dance performance to begin, and the curtain's closed, and you don't know what you're going to see. And suddenly, boom, the curtain opens up, and there's so many lights, and you're in the darkness. You're totally in the darkness in the theater, sitting there. There's so many blue lights and red lights and beautiful costumes and expressions and makeup, and everything's exaggerated. Everywhere around you, darkness, but in front of you, the pure light of the drama. So that's the whole thing with seeing Leela in the mind. Everywhere around you, everyone's in darkness, but you're seeing the pure light of Radha and Krishna's Dharma drama. That's their dharma also. Their eternal activities. So here Prabhupada, at that time, Rupa Goswami appeared to Prabhupada in his kuti, in his kitchen. I lived there for 3 years and slept there every night. And I used to serve, and I used to stay there and do my bhajan, and Prabhupada was doing his bhajan in his other room. That was his bhajan, meditating on helping Radharani cook Krishna's breakfast and make sweets for Krishna. That seva was done there by Prabhupada. That was his seva stali. But for his mala and meditating on Radha and Krishna and translating, Bhagavatam was in his other kuti, two kuti. And he also slept there, or at least appeared to sleep. We don't know if he slept. We weren't there. But the great souls, they never sleep anyway. We sleep. They have vilas, swapna vilas. It's their pastimes. And the jagran vilas and swapna vilas. They have pastimes when they're awake, jagrata, and when they're sleeping. They're always with Krishna and Radha, and they're always serving them either in their sadhaka rup or their siddha rup. Rupa Goswami appeared to Prabhupada there in the kitchen one day, and he said, clear, Prabhupada saw him, sakshat and darshan. Prabhupada was honoring prasadam. Or he finished, he was just looking. And he said, Bhaktivedanta, he was not Prabhupada. He says, Bhaktivedanta, you should go to the Western countries and distribute the Bhakti Ras, the teachings of the 6 Goswamis, and you'll be successful, and I'll be right behind you. So this was a fact that Prabhupada revealed once during a massage. And I believe it was maybe Hari Sauri was massaging, or Hari Kesh, I don't remember. And that painting, a painting was made of that by Gargamuni, maybe in his room, I don't know. And he has it on one of his CDs he sells. Have you seen? And that's a beautiful pastime. We heard that pastime in 1989 or so, long before the painting was done, 2000 or something, long afterwards. But we confirmed that with the parties that were directly involved, and they said yes, and Prabhupada wanted to keep it quite secret because I wanted to put it in my Prabhupada Radha Damodar book. And he said, better you keep it locked in your heart. I said, fine. So I didn't write about it. So here, as Rupa Goswami was telling Prabhupada, yes, go to the West, yes, preach in English, yes, distribute Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, we can only imagine it possibly, this is my logical speculation. It's not mental speculation, it's heart speculation, because of my heart's connection with my Guru. We can logically deduce, I would say, to avoid the word speculation, which people don't like, I would logically deduce that after that apparition, darshan, sakshatkar, darshan, Rupa Goswami, Prabhupada began to translate Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu verse by verse, which appeared in several issues of Back to Godhead magazine. This is my presumption. And I'm happy with it. It feels good. It seems real. And that's ultimately reality. It's all about what seems right for you. Because you're the one that sleeps at night with a disturbed or peaceful mind. It's your mind, it's your peace and your disturbance. So something sits in your mind that makes you peaceful, and something sits in your mind that makes you disturbed. But when Krishna sits in your mind, and you're always peaceful, even in the greatest disturbances. You say, Hari go. Come say, come sa. They say in French, come say, come sa. C'est la vie, such is life. Here, Vrindavan Das Thakur is giving an indication of this dream, of this darshan that Prabhupada had of Rupa Goswami 500 years later. He's saying, you go, Rupa and Sanatana, you go to Mathura. Okay, now you're in Mathura. Now you distribute Paschima Sabharagiya Bhakti Ras. Give everyone. Sabhara means Sakala, Savara means everyone. Because in Bengali, sometimes it sounds like Hindi, because they say Sakala. Sakala means everyone. When they say Sabar, you say Sab, Sabari, Sab, very much like Hindi. But then there's Sakala. So if you read Sakala, what does that mean? Well, that means Sab. All. So he's telling distribute everybody in Paschim. So why didn't he say Mathura? In the previous verse he said, go reside in Mathura. And he said, so in distribute Bhakti Rasa Riva Mathura. He didn't say Mathura, he says Paschim. As if Mathura is not Paschim. Because it's not Paschim. Why is it not Paschim? Because Mathura is not part of the material world. To think of such as a Das Aparad of the Dham. There's 10 aparads in the Holy Dham. One is to think Mathura Mandala is in the material world, in UP or in India. So you think Vrindavan Thakur is going to refer to Mathura as Paschim Desh? Hardly. There's Vrindavan and the rest of the world. There's also India and the rest of the world. It's another point. But now, this is very inspiring here, that in the page of the Caitanya Bhagavata we find Srila Prabhupada loud and clear. Because who took the teachings of Rupa Goswami to the Western world? Prabhupada. Prabhupada's godbrothers that went for a short time, few months, few days, to England, Belgium, Germany, they gave the teachings of Krishna and Gita. They gave Gita classes. Prabhupada went to New York, and the first classes he was giving is Chaitanya Charitamrita, Sanatana Shiksha. Sanatana Shiksha, Madhya Lila Chapter 21 of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya's teachings on Bhakti Ras to Sanatana Goswami, 1966. People were like, what's he talking about? Ishvara Tattva. People, huh? He's reading the Bengali. Ishvara Tattva, Vaibhav Prakash. I was just hearing classes from August 1966. Bhagavan has Vaibhav Prakash, Leela Prakash. These are a little difficult to understand, but please listen attentively. He expands into Dwarka in the 16,000 forms. It's not that he wanted 16,000 wives. Generally, a king will marry a few wives. His father Vasudev, he probably say in English, his father Vasudev had 16 wives. So he had 8 wives. He had 8 wives, but there was some circumstance, one Rakshas, he had kidnapped some princesses. In our Indian culture, if a girl stays in a man's house overnight, then she can never get married. So they were stuck. They were in a fix. So then there was 16,100 actually, according to Vishnu Chakravarti. So then they said, hey Bhagavan, hey Krishna, hey God, hey Providence, can you help us? I know it's a little odd, but God can make the laws and He can break the laws. The law is that we're stuck, we can never be married, we'll be widows and go back to our mother and father. But since you're here, can you adjust everything harmoniously? Although it's, in one sense, a dharmic. So it's very interesting. Krishna makes an adharmic arrangement. An adharmic arrangement is part of his lila, to satisfy his bhaktas. So Krishna doesn't care about dharma, he cares about bhaktas, about his devotees. So then he who makes the laws of dharma, now he's breaking them, or let's say bending them, by marrying these 16,100 queens, princesses, wholesale. And all of a sudden he had 8 wives, which is okay. Prabhupada says if a king was powerful, he could have a few wives, and we would provide nicely for all of them. So Krishna had 8 wives, so that's okay. His father had, I think Vasudeva had 10 or 16. I think he said 10. 10. Vasudeva had 10 wives. No, Devaki and whoever, I don't know the other ones. Maybe Rohini, I suppose. Rohini was his wife. Devaki, Rohini. Those were 2 prominent ones. And that's told. So everyone's in the audience. So therefore, this form of Krishna is Vaibhav Prakash. And there's Swami Prakash. This is 1966. Oh yeah. What's he talking about? Can you imagine? 1966. They just came off the streets and came off of whatever they came. They came off of many things, not only off the street. And 4 regular all of a sudden they went from no principles to 4 regular principles, and from 0 philosophy to the highest philosophy, from 0 behavior to perfect pure behavior, from girlfriends and boyfriends to celibacy and brahmacharya, It's a major. Then Vaibhav Prakash. Even if I give classes right now to devotees that are rightly situated in sattva gun and following the four little principles and have good birth, and they'll say, can you tell us a pastime? You won't be able to understand. And Prabhu's with his glasses on. So today, Chaitanya Charitamrita, he reads the Bengali, and then he explains without any hesitation, doesn't try to make it some cute little American phrase or anything. This is Vaibhav Prakash. Beautiful. I'm so much enjoying these classes. So here's Prabhupada. He went to the Paschim and he distributed Bhakti Ras, specifically of Rupa and Sanatana, especially Rupa Goswami. Very beautiful verse. So that Lord Chaitanya is giving them their place and their Prabhudatta Deshan, Mathura. And then he says, Amiha dekhiba giya Mathura mandal amataki baristala karya viral sakara malika nam guchayatan sanatana avaduta tuilena nam. Mahaprabhu said to Rupa Sanatana, later I will come to Mathura, arrange a secluded place for my stay. The Lord then changed the name of Sakara Malik to Sanatan. And I think Sri Rupa was already called Rupa, actually. He was called Rupa. Although he gave it says he gave, in a purport, it says he gave, Gaurasundar gave Sakara Malik the name Avadut Sanatan, and he gave Dabir Kas the name Sri Rupa. In the ancient language of northwest India, they are not referred to by any other name than Sri Rupa and Sri Sanatan. So here in this verse, Mahaprabhu is expressing a desire to live in a solitary place in Vrindavan. Arrange for a secluded place for me. Stala Takibari Stala Kariya Virala. It's because Lord Chaitanya had already come to Vrindavan and stayed for 2 months. That Leela has already happened in chronology. This is Antya Leela. He's in Puri. And dispatching them. And I don't know the commentaries, but he's saying, I will come, later I will come. So it almost sounds like the second coming of Jesus. The Christians, there was the resurrection and Jesus left this world, but he said, I will come again, and the Messiah. So the Messiah is Prabhupada, of course, in one sense. He's the pure devotee of the Lord, the Shakti Vaishnavatar, as was Lord Jesus. But that's a viewpoint. But Lord Chaitanya, as we know, he says later, I will come, but he did not come. He did not return to Vrindavan, although he was encouraging him in that way. I haven't heard anything, particular comments about this, so I can't share that with you. Adyapiya dui bhai Rupa Sanatan Chaitanya Kripaya Haila Vikyata Bhuvan. Vrindavan Thakur states, by the mercy of Chaitanya, Rupa and Sanatana are famous throughout the world even today. That's for sure. In the previous verse, Vrindavan Thakur, Lord Chaitanya not only ordered them, but as we have often heard, and we're seeing practically in this verse from Caitanya Bhagavata, in the Guru Agya is the Guru Shakti and Krishna Shakti, because he's a Shakti Murti. The Guru is the Kripa Shakti Murti of the Lord. Krishna Kripa Shakti Murti is Guru. So when Guru Agya is Guru Shakti and Bhagavan Shakti, Guru Shakti is Bhagavan Shakti, if one surrenders. Because mercy is such that if you surrender, the switch is on. If you surrender, the switch is off. Like the light. You turn it off, it's dark. You turn it on, it's light. Every corner of the room is lit as soon as you turn it on. So as soon as you surrender, then all the mercy flows like Niagara Falls. That's quite a heavy force. They run a whole electric generator with it. Turbo, whatever they call it. Hydropower. So Vrindavan Thakur, Lord Chaitanya is saying, you Paschima Sabari Gya Deha Bhakti Ras, Deha, give Bhakti Ras to the people in the Western countries. So that's the order of Lord Chaitanya. So in his order is the power to do it. And they did it. They translated these books in Vrindavan. They translated they translated and collected and produced the Bhakti Shastras. And then Prabhupada, he took them to the West. Because when Jiva Goswami ordered Narottam, Srinivasan